Running. There we go. Hi, Sky.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you this morning?
Good.
Things are good in California this morning.
So far, so good. It's another beautiful day in paradise.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, thank you so much for coming on and taking your time to share with us. I'm part of a wellness and well-being, health and well-being group, and so we're doing going live here with them. But I wanted to share with them what you had uh, come up with this documentary. I just happened to have stumbled on it because I'm like you. I'm associated with Growing Boulder
Mhm.
organization down in Orlando, and that's how we met. So that was great. Anyway, I wondered if you might share how it was that you came to be to make this documentary and tell us about your grandmother.
Yeah, sure. So I made a film called Lives Well Lived, where I interviewed 40 people who were 75 and older. It was inspired by my grandmother, who at 99 was still working out at the gym. And I filmed her working out at the gym, and I thought, wow, I better find other people out there that are as much an inspiration as she is to me. And I was looking at approaching 50 and what the rest of my life was going to look like and wanting good role models. And so that was really what got me started on the film. And I ended up interviewing 40 people over a 4 year period and had a film at the end of it.
Yeah, and you discovered that they had some very simple suggestions about how to live longer or live a good life.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I think the three things that people had in common was one, they all had a good support system, whether it was family or friends, and it didn't necessarily have to be family. The other was that they were all had a sense of purpose, something that they woke up wanting to do, whether it was giving back or learning something new. They all had a sense of purpose. And then thirdly, I think it's very much of a cliche, but there's a reason for that, is that they all saw life as the glass is half full rather than half empty. And I think there's something to be said for that in terms of our attitude and how we live our lives. I think if the resilience, especially now during a pandemic, looking at the glasses half full rather than half empty is a pretty good survival mechanism and a way to stay positive for sure.
yeah, so they had really positive mindsets. Uh,
Mhm.
they probably didn't necessarily call it their mindset, but that's just the way they were, right?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think, one of the things that Evie Justison from the film says is that there are many times where you cannot control the things that are happening around you, but what you can control is your attitude about how you adjust to those things. And I think that that's so important. I mean, it's, like I said, especially right now while we're in the midst of a pandemic, and we can't control that, but we can control our attitude about how we deal with it and how we choose to move through it.
yeah, and in the documentary, it shows your grandmother working out, physically working out, which is very interesting. In that scientists, doctors, that have watched people that are centurions or in their 90s, if they continue to have them work out, whether it's even just with the rubber bands, or little dumbbells like your grandmother was using, if they keep their uh, strength up, that's also a really great thing. And actually, I know in another fellow that we both know, Carl Honore, who wrote Boulder. Um, and there's a story in there about a Parisian. I think he was at the time of the writing of the book, he was 104,
Mm.
and he was still riding his bicycle competitively.
Yeah.
And some other doctor found him and wanted to run some scientific tests, so to speak, on this gentleman, and he was all for it. And they discovered that you can still build muscle mass at that age.
Well, my
And
grandmother didn't start working out at the gym until she was 80. So if any of you out there are thinking, oh, I'm too old to start, you're never too old to start something new, including working out at the gym.
yeah, starting anything, even a new career, right? I
Right.
mean, I recently looked up the oldest person that had ever graduated from law school. And that was, she was in her, I want to say she was in her 70s.
Mm.
She worked, she worked into her 90s as a lawyer, um, which is phenomenal. I thought it was great. But anyway, yeah, so they have the half full attitude, which is sending all these um, endorphins into your body based on happiness or joy or positivity. Is that, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that, that's a big part of it. I also think that they all overcame quite some major obstacles, as you see if you see the film. So it's not that they just lived an easy life. A lot of them had something that was pretty traumatic that happened to them, but it's how they faced that and how they overcame it. And then I think also how they reflect back on it, and that helps them, allows them to move forward in a different kind of way.
Yeah, yeah. So how would somebody go about getting the movie? Um,
If you go to our website, which is lives-well-live.com, the DVD is actually for sale, and that's on our website. And then it's going to show on PBS in May of 2021 as part of Older Americans Month. So you can look for it on PBS. You can sign up for our email newsletter list on our website, and you will be informed when it's going to be on PBS and when and where all over the
yeah,
country.
yeah. So yeah, I guess I can put the website on this video when we put it out there. We can get it in the notes. Yeah, I did watch the video. You were kind enough to let me watch it, and it's just great. It was really great. Of
Mhm.
course, you know, I'm a little biased. I love this stuff anyway. I think I told you when we first talked that I had grown up in a neighborhood where there weren't any kids my age, any young boys in my age. And so I hung out with my neighbors who at the time seemed so much older than me. And you know, and learn stuff from them. I used to help them, you know, do stuff around their houses and stuff. Um, and it was, I just became enamored to older people. They just seemed so much smarter than everybody else that I would talk to, you know, like kids my age. They didn't, you know, they didn't know things that I knew. But anyway, so I have this love for um, the older generations, and which I am now traveling into, having just turned 65. I guess that's
Well, my dad always says that old is 15 years older than you are. So it's a sliding scale as we age. And I think that's a very good way of looking at it. He's a geriatric physician and has been since he got out of medical school. And now he is in that age group. So it's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head in terms of like these intergenerational connections. We are trying with a film to now use the film as a catalyst to create intergenerational connections. So we're showing the film to elders, to students in different classes in high schools and universities, and then connecting those students and those elders together for a quarter or semester. And it's been very successful because I think the two groups that are actually the most affected by this pandemic in terms of loneliness are really students and elders. And so to bring those two groups together is, I think, vitally important. And it's also really important because it's very easy to have all these isms about another group of people. But when you meet somebody individually, one-on-one, all of a sudden those isms and those stereotypes go out the window. And so in doing these intergenerational projects, which I've been very involved with, very personally involved with, especially the ones at my university here at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, one of the things that the common things that the students and the elders also say is that they realize that there's so much more that they have in common, and the only difference really is their age. And all of a sudden, all those stereotypes in both directions disappear, because there are certainly stereotypes that elders have about young people,
yep,
and obviously stereotypes that young people have about elders. And so I think that that's really important. I grew up with my grandparents and even my great grandmother. I was lucky enough to have them in my life, but a lot of young people don't have an elder in their lives. Maybe they just have their parents, but they might not live close to their grandparents, and or they may never have met their grandparents. And so to connect those generations, I think is really is just so important, especially right now.
yeah, especially now. Yeah,
Mhm.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else to say. I think we've covered it unless there's something that you want to finish off with.
No, I just thank you so much for your time, and I hope people will check out the website. And if you're looking for inspiration, you can go to our website, and under the Film Stars page, there are my favorite quotes from all the 40 people that I interviewed. So things like my favorite, I'll tell you my favorite, which is Lucky Louie, who I just saw this morning. He says, happiness is a state of mind. You can be happy with what you have or miserable with what you don't have. You decide. And that, I think, is a really good motto to live by. But if you're looking for some good inspirational quotes, please feel free to go there. And also, if you're looking to interview somebody who's an elder and you don't know where to start, if you go to the shared stories part of our website, there are the questions that I asked in the film. And sometimes the hardest thing in terms of interviewing somebody is knowing the questions to ask. So
Correct.
you feel free to use those questions as a starting point. Another passion of mine has been collecting the stories of our elders, because those stories are, especially during COVID, being lost at a voracious rate. And so the more that we can do to collect those stories of our elders, and also that kind of helps make those connections happen, the better off that we'll be.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Thank you for all of that.
So again, thank you so much for taking the time, and for promoting the film and what we're doing, all those you're doing about active aging. I think it's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I want to encourage everyone to share these kinds of stories on the internet, that if somebody has stories about their grandparents or great grandparents, I encourage people to get online and share it. It's really just so valuable to everyone across the spectrums of ages. We can all benefit from each other going, both ways, like you said.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for coming on, Sky, and
Thank you, Ray.
maybe we'll catch you another time.
All right. Sounds good. Take
All right.
care. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.